So, last class we talked about, kind of our creation, right? We kind of talked really briefly about the American Revolution. Who wins?
Us.
Us, the United States. Who are we fighting? Who are we fighting in the American Revolution? Great Britain, also known, right? Great Britain, also known as England, same place, okay? So Great Britain, King George, not happy, so we write the Declaration of Independence. There we go, getting better. Okay, you guys are warming up for the day. Everything is not fine and dandy, okay? So we start building. Remember that when we're looking at, so we're looking on the west coast, okay, 13 colonies. And as we start to have that manifest destiny where we're pushing towards the west, we're going to start expanding. Now, there's two different regions, okay, within the north and the south, okay? How many of you have been to the East Coast? Okay, so north is, have you guys been like all up and down it, or just kind of?
I went on the PC trip.
Awesome! I did that too in middle school. So you have the north, which is considered what? What kind of population is in the north?
A lot.
A higher population? Yes, you're on it. So bigger population. There's also, what else? Buildings, right? Cities, factories. Perfect. And then in the south, you have farms. So you have more agricultural land, okay? And so then this issue of, okay, what are, is it, when you're looking up in the north, we start to see this divide. Okay, so we have the north, which is industrialized, okay, they're going to go through the Industrial Revolution, then have factories. Then you have the south, which is very much more, working the crops, working the land. What were important crops in the south? Cotton was huge, right? Cotton, and then we have all the textiles in the north. Okay, so cotton is huge, and there's one other particular one that you can't use it until you're 18.
Tobacco.
Tobacco, awesome. So tobacco, cotton, huge. But also, cotton especially, if you guys have seen a cotton plant, it's very laborious work to have to pull. It's kind of like a prickly, little claw with a little piece of cotton inside of it. You prick your finger. So it's really labor intensive to pull the cotton, right, before the cotton gin is created to extract the cotton. So they have what? So what do landowners have to work the farms? Slaves, right? So there becomes this big issue between the north and the south, and over this, what do we do with slaves? Because the north are going to be fighting for abolition, the abolition movement, which is to get rid of all of slavery nationwide, and the south is saying, I don't think so. We need that to survive. Like, we need slaves to survive. So the road, okay, really starts here with this question of slavery. Okay, when we're looking at the Civil War. So they come up with the Missouri Compromise, and as they're pushing west, the Missouri Compromise is, when California becomes a state, they said it's going to be a free state. Okay, we're gonna have a free state. It's gonna be California. The Compromise of 1850. Then I'm gonna talk a little more about that. We're gonna talk about the Kansas-Nebraska Act, and also, we're going to talk about, just the differences between the North and the South. So, the wrong way. Okay, so Missouri Compromise, I'm going to zoom in for you, is going to be, you can kind of see it here. It's going to be South versus North. Okay, so right here. This is 3630. Can you kind of see it? Yes? No? Okay. And what happens is from Maine and Missouri, okay, so what they're going to do is they're actually going to draw a dividing line at the 3630. And at the 3630 parallel. And they're going to say that anything, okay, so we'll zoom back in. So anything below this line are slave states. Anything above the line are going to be free states. Do you think that that is going to work?
No.
No. Okay. So what happens is we keep pushing, right? We keep pushing west. And so now we're, this is where the United States is kind of looking. And California is coming in, right? California, land of the gold, Coloma. It's my neighborhood. So Coloma, gold fever. Everyone's like, oh my gosh, we can make gold. Everyone's like trying to get out west. And so they say, okay, well, we're going to, there's this other thing. So what are we going to do? What's going to happen when new states enter the territory? And so when California came in, they said California is going to be a free state. However, okay, so we also have Utah and New Mexico. Let me zoom in on this for you. Obviously, this is 18, I think this is 1818. This is this map. So this isn't what really Utah looks like right now, okay, or New Mexico. So back then, okay, so now we have California is going to be for sure a free state. What are we going to do with these states, okay? You can see we have some unorganized territory, okay? You can see these states. So Utah and Mexico are going to be able to decide about slavery. So they're going to be able to do that, which is, what is that called? They use a specific term in your textbook.
Wait, for what?
They're going to let the people decide.
Oh. Does it start with an S?
Yes!
I can't remember. I know.
Ooh, good guess. Popular, and then starts with an S.
Sovereignty.
Yeah, sovereignty.
Oh, that was it.
Yeah, you were right. That was good, though. You're right there. So, popular sovereignty. So they're going to let the people decide. Do you want slavery or do you not want slavery? Okay, and that's a very similar. So direct democracy. Well, that's not really going to save. Okay, that's not. It's we still have this issue. So we're going to move up to our Kansas. Okay, so we're going to look at the Kansas, also Kansas-Nebraska Act. Also, I'm going to talk a little bit about bleeding Kansas. You may talk about that in your textbook. So after the compromise of 1850, some people believed, here's our keyword, popular sovereignty, awesome, would be the best way to decide. They're saying, let the people decide, depending on what's going on in those states. Kansas, the problem is, though, we already have the Missouri Compromise. So popular sovereignty would conflict with that, correct? Right? You can't have, if you live above this line or below this line, there's slave or free. But then if you say, we're going to vote by popular sovereignty, then that overrules that. So, so what happens is they actually say, okay, Missouri Compromise, we're going to establish popular sovereignty, and then we have this act called the Bleeding Kansas, and they basically said, hey, we're going to fight to the death. And so Kansas is kind of up in an uproar, and March of 1855, I mean, all these people are fighting over should there be slavery, should there not be slavery, and really there was lootings, robberies. We have there's one in your textbook. They talk about like 5 men getting murdered over really nothing, just opinions and views. And so this, if you're looking at a government perspective, this is a problem, right? Like from a big perspective, you have states kind of deciding, what am I going to do, what am I not going to do, and there's no universal rule, right? Do you agree? Problem? Does that look crazy? This is what I would call a hot mess. Like the United States is involved in a hot mess of chaos. So, so what happens is, remember we do have the abolitionist movement. What is what if you're an abolitionist? What does that mean?
Going against something.
Okay. In particular, this is referring to slavery. So, you guys have heard about Harriet Tubman, right?
Mm-hmm.
Underground Railroad. Was that middle school? Master in middle school? Okay. So you do have, you do have these, don't think, you know what I mean, that it's all crazy conflict, you know what I mean, but you do have people working to get slaves up to the north to free states. And, really hard, I mean, that's not something that is easy, and if you're found, helping slaves escape, then you also go on, on trial. That really is your life, and she was really instrumental in that. There's also this book called the Uncle Tom's Cabin. Anyone ever heard of it? Anyone read it?
Is there a movie?
I don't know. Probably. There's a movie about everything.
I watched a movie about like Harriet Tubman.
Yeah, you watched a movie about it in 8th grade?
Yeah.
So I had never read this book until I went to college. I always wanted to read it. I was like hoping that one of my professors would assign it. And I have it in my office if any of you want to look at it. But it's so hard to read. It's written by a slave. And it is, you know how a lot of slaves were not educated, obviously. So it's written, it's similar to like a diary, written. And it's really hard to read. But if you guys are interested in looking at it, then feel free. But this book comes out, is really popular, widely read, especially in the North, about how slaves are treated, what they experience. Very, very good concept behind it, just hard to read, you know what I mean, because of the language that is used. Then we also have unique cases like the Dred Scott case. So the Dred Scott case, this is a great test question. This is something that you would definitely want to remember. He is a slave. It's a nice little drawing of him. And what happens is he travels to a free state with his owner. Okay, so they're going to travel together. Well, now he's in a free state, so is he free?
Yeah.
Yes? What do you guys think? Yes, he's free? No?
No.
No? Yes? Yes?
Yes.
Yes. You're in a state following state laws, right? The nation hasn't had a consensus. But that is the question. You can see even within our own class, we're divided. Like, is he technically free or is he not? Because technically, slaves are considered property, right? So if I bring my dog to the dog beach and my dog doesn't want me as an owner anymore, can he just like stay at the dog beach?
Just like
Run away?
That's what I would do if I was a slave.
But what if you get caught? I mean, that's your life.
I would just cut myself.
That's not good. That's a good option. So, but you have a bunch of people, right? You hear of the Underground Railroad. You hear of these free states. You know what I mean? You know of people who've been successful in escaping. So I mean, there is this element of hope, or this element of maybe nationwide someone's gonna do something about this. That would be nice, right? So what happens is this actually makes it up to the Supreme Court. So realize that the Supreme Court, even still today, the Supreme Court is what I call the big daddy of all courts. Like it's such a long process to get to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court's job is to look at the Constitution and to rule and say, either this is constitutional or this is not constitutional. Okay, so this case makes it all the way up to the big daddy of courts. And what happens is they say, no, you have no right, because you're a slave, to bring anything to trial. Yeah, right? I know. So he ends up losing that case, or the case shouldn't have existed. And that was in March 1857. And so he's saying that the ruling basically is that even though it's a free state, this is not equal. You're not equal to a free man because you are a slave and you're property. Okay. And oh my little antivirus. There we go. So what happens is with the Dred Scott case, he ends up getting sold, and then he's sold to someone else, and they do grant him his freedom. So he does have kind of a happy ending, which is nice. But you can see, you know what I mean, that concept of just, you know, it's so foreign to us because we're very much, you know, equal rights. We all have rights. We were kind of, you know, raised with that philosophy. But that concept where, oh my gosh, like I am a property. I'm the equivalent of someone's purse or, you know, something, you know, a pet or something like that, and I have no rights and nothing is protecting me. Not awesome, right? And not too long ago. I mean, this was in 1857. So so we haven't always had a great history. But we do have Honest Abe. How many of you guys have seen the movie? The recent one. Is it good?
It's so good.
Is it? I haven't had time to see it yet.
Yeah.
Is it? But it's good?
It's really good.
One of my girlfriends went and saw it and I said, did you know the ending? Did he die? She goes, yes, he died. So anyways, but that's on my like to-do list at some point in time when we stop enrolling kids and I'm not crazy. So anyways, Honest Abe, I've actually been, those of you who went on the DC trip, did you guys go to the theater where Abraham Lincoln, then you went like outside and there's like his like little house, or someone's little house, I don't remember who it was, but where he died and you got to see the bed?
That's really gross.
Oh, that was really cool. Well, that was like ages, that was back in like 93 for me, I don't know, it was a long time ago. So when we went on our Washington DC trip in middle school, then we got to go and then you got to see, and he was like a tall man, like he was huge, and the beds were like not made, you know, back then, like to fit tall people. And so he died on this bed. I mean, it maybe was like 4 feet, maybe 5 feet. And so we got to take a little tour of where, I mean, you couldn't like go in and like touch stuff, but what the building that he was like rushed to. So anyways, side note. Okay, so he's elected 1858. And, you know, basically it's saying that he did not want to abolish slavery. He just wanted to contain it. Okay? So to stop it from spreading. Does that make sense? So, okay, we're all trying to come up with our own laws, right? Missouri Compromise, Kansas, Nebraska, let's fight. You know, there's all this crazy stuff. He's saying, okay, we need someone above it, right? Someone bigger, right? From federal government. We need to look at this. But the issue really is, you know, if we take it away, if we abolish slavery, the South's economy is really going to suffer. Okay, that's a big component, you know, big issue down there. So let's just stop from spreading slavery. It'll stay contained to where it is. So between the election and his inauguration, 7 states say, I'm out. I won't be part of the United States anymore. This is sucky. I'm done. And so they are what we call seceding from the nation. Do you guys feel that you should have the right to, like, if California is like pretty independent. I mean, look at us. We're big. We have one of the biggest economies in the United States. One of the highest populations. Maybe we should just like be our own nation. We think it's a great idea.
There's like a state in the middle of the U.S. and it's just like I want to be my own. It's like, well,
okay, so that's a great idea. Or what if we're United States, right? How many of you have been to Southern California? So different than Northern California, right? So maybe we'll just like put a line somewhere, like at like maybe Bakersfield. We keep Bakersfield like in Southern California, and we'll say Northern and Southern California. It'll be separate. We don't have to deal with like their problems. What do you think?
No.
It doesn't work like that.
Wasn't there something in the news that Texas wanted to secede?
Yeah,
it's like a little while.
Like, what are they, part of Mexico?
So it was back in the day, but okay. So here's the issue: is what do you do? So you're big man on campus, right? You're the president, and you have 7 states saying, "I want out, and I'm no longer considering myself part of your nation." That is an issue, right? So the nation becomes so divided, and so just living basically separate worlds, separate identities, and There, put a little quote on there. It says, "If I could reunite the Union by freeing all of the slaves, I would. If I could reunite the Union by not freeing any slave, I would." So just showing he's in a really hard spot. There isn't a win-win within this. You know, people are just so hardened by what had been going on. So, oh yeah, we already talked about this. North and South, right? Cotton, industrialized, agriculture. Okay, requires lots of. That was a review. So we are. Okay, here we are. So, Honest Abe creates the Emancipation Proclamation, which is huge. You need to know that. So if you, that would be like a good key word. In 1863. I'm not huge on dates because a couple of people have asked me on dates, like, do I have to remember this date for every single thing? No, I want you to remember big concepts, big ideas, okay? So big idea would be the North and South are divided. They're living 2 separate lives, right? That would be something you would want to remember. So this Emancipation Proclamation is an executive order that is going to free all slaves in regions which were rebelling against the Union. Okay, you got that? So if they're rebelling against the Union, you now are all free. Smart, right? I think that was real smart. So 7 states, right? Because guess what states want to secede? The slave states, right? So, so pretty smart. And then this goes into real detail in your textbook. If you want to kind of look and see, you know what I mean, specifically learn about muskets, rifles, bayonets. They do a pretty good job in your textbook of going through, you know, how warfare was fought. We have some major battles as well. And we get, what time is it? We get out in a half hour. Oh no. Did it stay logged in? Yes. Okay. So over some major battles, many of you I'm sure have heard of Gettysburg. Yes? Yes, okay. And 8th grade does a really good job of this too, and it goes in a lot of depth in your textbook. But I mean, devastating losses to the South, which never were recovered. It's really a turning point in the war, so that's a good one to know. Sherman, famous general, he's a good person to remember. You like him? You like this picture of him?
No.
So you guys making faces, you're like, what is going on? He has his hand in his coat pocket.
Why?
It's just like how, you know, like if people are resting, it's just like a way. A way to kind of, you know, like, look at me.
It's weird.
But we have this concept of total war, and you should remember this concept of total war from world history. Do you remember total war? Yes, no, maybe so?
I remember the phrase, but I don't remember what it was.
So total war is that idea that everyone is involved. So it's like everyone has to make sacrifices. In World War, we talked about it in World War I and II. So when in world history where you're like giving up, so right, women would give up their pantyhose, you know, coffee, cigarettes to the soldiers, right? So you would give up like personal necessities, or you would drive less so you could buy a war bond, you know what I mean, those kind of things. So total war affects everyone. Does that make sense? Like it's not like total war, like everyone's in war with each other, but there are sacrifices made on like civilians, and it's affecting civilians. So Sherman's March to the Sea, I actually put this in our, I wanted to show you, there's a really great map in our textbook But you can see how long it is. It's these blue lines. So Sherman marches to the sea, which is he's covering some expansive territory. So that's far, right? You don't want to march as far. This is not on my to-do list. But he basically says that his quote is, though, the South will be so sick of war, and he was going to Georgia, if you didn't see that on the map. The South will be so sick of war that generations would pass before they would gain appeal to it. So this idea that this is going to stay forever, it's going to keep happening forever, and we're not going to change it. We do have the end of the Civil War. Richmond is destroyed. The South ends up, surrendering. So the real question comes after this is, okay, now we're a fractured nation, right? Just because the South surrenders, it doesn't fix all the problems. Does that make sense? Just because, you get in a fight with one of your best friends and they say, I'm sorry, it doesn't repair the damage that was done, right? Or the things that were said. You can't take those back. So we really have a fractured nation. We have 700,000 people killed, which that's a lot of people, especially back then. We're going to have political changes, economical changes. We have the 13th Amendment. Do you guys know 13th Amendment? No? Okay. I actually have a really fun activity for the amendments.
Isn't that a slave?
Huh? Is it what? Yeah. Slaves being free? Yeah. So if you ever want to look in your textbook, we have our 13 amendments here. Or 13 amendments. Oh my gosh. You have all of the amendments, including the 13th Amendment. So I bookmarked it so I could read it to you. Section 1 says, neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for a crime, so that would be jail, right? Whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, so you have to go to trial, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. Because remember, we also have territories, right? In world history, you learned about imperialism, so we also have territories, Guam, right? This is one that's currently still one of our territories. And then section 2, it says, Congress shall have the power to enforce these articles by appropriate legislation. So now we're saying you cannot enslave someone, okay, unless they're going to jail and they've been committed a crime and they've been tried fairly. Because that is kind of slavery, right? You're in jail. And you lose all your rights. So, quick question. How do you repair this divided nation?
Oh, party.
Throw a party? Throw a party, invite everyone to it?
Yeah. Didn't they have to fix everything that was damaged?
Huh?
Didn't they have to fix everything that was damaged?
Yeah, I mean, but what do you do? Like, how do you, you're president, what do you do? What is your first step? We throw a party. Don't know. Spend money. Okay, so super important, since you guys are kind of you're not super sure. So this is Reconstruction. So this is Can a Nation Be United? It's the next PowerPoint. I'm not going to go over it because I've been talking at you too long. So I'm going to have you guys do some stuff. But this is Lincoln's plan. It's also in your textbook. So Reconstruction, you can read about it, but kind of flip through here. Please ask me, okay, any questions. The event that changed the path of Reconstruction, right? Because, oh, sorry, Lincoln, you get shot. And that's going to change when we have a new president. So you can kind of go through this when Andrew Johnson comes to power. Any questions? Okay, so what I want you guys to do is you're going to have this Civil War letter assignment. Has anyone already done this? No. Okay. Oh, and this is only recording here. Let's do this. So, I want to move. I'm trying to, okay. Well, that's still not going to be within my recording box. But, so you have a Civil War letter assignment to do. I want you guys to pick one of the following characters. I don't care who you pick. I'm not going to assign it. You guys are 11th grade. You guys are old enough to, like, you know, pick something that you're genuinely interested in. So a Union or Confederate general, so someone leading troops. A soldier, so someone who is going to be following. A nurse, if you guys want to look at that. It talks about in our textbook, does a really good job talking about medical care and what women experienced. A Southerner, so male or female. An abolitionist, male or female. Remember that women don't have rights at this point, so there is a difference if you're going to be male or female. And of course a slave, which universally, I mean, male or female. You know, you might have different tasks, one being a nanny versus you know, picking cotton. And so for this assignment, it needs to be like historically accurate. So I told you, kind of Google in the directions, kind of Google, look at something, a letter that has already been written. There's a bunch of them on the internet. And then type it. You don't have to, I don't want you to type this in. So let's say you want to be like a slave. I don't want you to write like a slave, right? That will make my eyes bleed. So you guys know, you guys are educated, right? Free public education. So write in a manner that is of your intelligence level. So no, you know, don't like misspell things and be like, oh, I was trying to, because I'll be like, I don't know what they're writing. And so free of grammatical, you know, just make sure you're doing, you know, grammar and spelling. And, you know, just to really analyze, like, what that person would go through. Yeah.
So is it like a diary, like a dear journal?
Yeah, similar to like a diary, like you're writing it, you know, in first person. Like, what are you experiencing?
Like, so just like write about your day or something?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, perfect. Like the average day.
Does that be?
Like a page, double space.
So
Yeah.
like a paragraph?
Pretty much. Yeah. Just like a little, like, diary entry. It doesn't have to be anything too extravagant.
Just like the movie? That one movie?
What movie?